Hello, this is Elizabeth Connor Stewart with the Mecklenburg chapter in Charlotte, North Carolina. This video is going to show you how to work the satin stitch. This stitch is used in the DAR embroidery design along the flag. You will see this worked with both a regular red thread as well as a darker red thread for shading. As you can see, I have already outlined this flag with the split stitch. There is a tutorial on split stitch in the embroidery library on our YouTube series. I recommend you take a look at that before you get started, if you haven't already done so. You can use a split stitch or you can use a backstitch to outline when you're doing a satin stitch. The goal is to go from one end to the other, working vertically along this flag stripe. What you're going to do is angle your needle away from the border that you've created and then angle it in as you come down across the shape. You can work a satin stitch horizontally, vertically, any direction really. The most important thing is keeping your floss even and smooth. Here I'm still using 2 strands of embroidery floss. I stripped my floss and then I laid my individual floss strands back together in hopes that they would be nice and smooth. And I think what you'll see here in this video is as I work my stitches close together, I am not only getting good coverage, but also very smooth coverage. If you have twisted thread, you're going to have a very different effect, and that might very well be intentional. So I went ahead and sped up the video a little bit so that you could see just moving it all the way across. Now I'm going to come up from the bottom. You really don't want your satin stitch to be more than 1/2 inch, and I think that the flag itself is a little bit wide, so I've decided to break this into 2 different sections. I am actually varying the length of my second satin stitch. So as I come up into the design, you'll see that my stitches are different lengths. In crewel work, this is called long and short shading. I think that it actually does a really nice job of blending your stitches together and making it look nice and smooth. So I'm just going to continue working around. Where you have the red dots on your fabric is where we're going to add the deeper red color for accent. So once you have enough coverage and you like the way that it's looking, go ahead and secure off your regular red thread floss. Now I have threaded up 2 strands of darker red floss for the shading. I have also stripped this floss and tried to get the strands to be as smooth as possible. And I'm going to work this stitch just the way I've worked all the other ones, coming out, angling away from my top design line, and then coming on down across the shape. I am going to be angling my stitches at the top and going straight in at the bottom where I put the needle in. You'll see that I am also varying the length of my stitch, and I think that just gives a nice softer edge to it. You of course could have a very hard line if you wanted to have your stitches be exactly the same length, but I like the dimension that the varied length gives to my piece right here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up. This is a stitch that takes a bit of time, so no need to sit and watch the slow process taking shape, but as you can see, I am just working to cover all of the red dots. That's where the red shading should be on your design. But of course, this is your design, so if you want to interpret it any way you want, you can. This is your embroidery. So I've gone ahead and come to the end of my flag stripe. And I'm going to work just a few more stitches closely together until I'm happy with the way that it looks. I want to have full coverage here. I don't want to see any of my background fabric peeking through. So there you have the satin stitch. You can also work a satin stitch with padding underneath if you wanted to take some stitches underneath the stripe to give more of a raised effect. I think this is a small enough stripe that you don't necessarily need that, but as I said earlier, this is your embroidery design, so make it however you'd like. I hope you enjoyed learning the satin stitch, and please watch the other videos for further stitching instructions. Thank you so much for watching and happy stitching!